We start this session about 25 minutes behind schedule. So let's start now. We start with our first speaker, Professor Richard Taylor.
So this is about spatial hearing and the importance of spatial hearing and evaluating it. So hearing with two ears is very, very important. It's important for hearing, it's important for hearing speech and noise, and it's important for localizing where a sound is coming from. Therefore, it's important that we evaluate spatial hearing in our candidates. It's important that we provide hearing in two ears, and it's important that we maximize the devices to enable spatial hearing cues. So I think it's important that we can have spatial hearing testing in every clinic in the world. So we have to keep it simple and straightforward. So this strategy is based on having a soundproof room and based on having two loudspeakers. So it should be very simple, and it should be something that everybody can use. So the first step is to test the right ear and test the left ear, one at a time, and then test speech perception in spatially separate noise, with speech from the front and noise on the side of the better hearing ear. Putting noise on the side of the better hearing ear makes the two ears more similar and increases the likelihood that there will be a binaural advantage if there is a binaural advantage. So the first step is to test and determine which is the better hearing ear. So the child could be wearing a hearing aid or could even be wearing a cochlear implant on one ear, or an adult. So you test the right ear with speech from the front. You test the left ear with speech from the front. And again, if they're already using a hearing aid or a cochlear implant, they can use that. Which ear is hearing better? Well, once you know that, you will put the noise on the ear of the better ear side. And in this example, the left ear is better. So in step 2 in this protocol, you have speech from the front and noise on the better ear, and then and let them hear with the right ear. And then you have speech from the front and noise on the better ear, which in this example is the left ear. And then you put speech from the front and noise on the better ear side and test them with both devices on. And that way you're able to measure if there is a binaural advantage or not. So very straightforward. Determine which is the better ear, put noise on that side to make them hear more similar in both ears, to increase the likelihood that you will see a binaural advantage if there is one. And by the way, if they're already using a cochlear implant or already using a hearing aid, you can still use this procedure to figure out which settings you could use to maximize binaural hearing. So we published this many years ago. So the strategy to fix binaural devices and to amplify devices appropriately that is used in hearing aids and has used in cochlear implants for many years, I think is wrong. And I think that instead of using the hearing thresholds to determine what the gain should be, we should be measuring the most comfortable listening level in hearing impaired people and cochlear implant people, and use that to make sure that speech perception is being amplified to the MCL in that individual, not based on average data. We've also developed a questionnaire. So a commonly used one is the Speech Spatial Qualities Questionnaire, but that questionnaire has questions on the quality of speech, which I think makes it less sensitive to spatial hearing. So our spatial hearing questionnaire has specific listening situations and only has questions on spatial hearing, and therefore it is more sensitive to spatial hearing issues than the SSQ. So there's a 24-item version and a 12-item version, scored from 0 to 100, so it has excellent resolution and represents situations where binaural hearing could be important. So here is, for example, a study with binaural cochlear implants, a cochlear implant and a hearing aid, and one cochlear implant. And you can see that on the different questions we have, for example, how do they hear music? Or can they tell which direction sounds are coming from? Their understanding in noise, their localization in noise. In all situations, having two cochlear implants is better than a cochlear implant and a hearing aid, and better than a cochlear implant only on one side. This is average data, again showing that two cochlear implants pre and post is better, a big improvement using the Iowa Spatial Hearing Questionnaire. I also believe that people often test localization inappropriately. If you use the same stimuli to test localization, because of the head shadow effect, people can hear the quality difference of the sound that you're using depending upon where the sound is coming from. But that doesn't happen in real life. In real life, we can't use those quality differences. So it's important to use different stimuli on the tests and, for example, natural stimuli, including animals and voice. So our environmental sound localization test includes dogs barking, water pouring, birds, ducks, lots of different environmental sounds. We start off with a localization test using 8 loudspeakers, and here's an example of how that was implemented. Here is the stimulus level and the response from individual subjects, and people with 2 cochlear implants do pretty good at localizing, but if you have a hearing aid and a cochlear implant, it's much more difficult to get the stimuli correct, to get the devices correct, so they're processing sounds in the right way to improve localization. This is a survey of many different subjects using 2 cochlear implants, the error rate, so they're better down here, and poor up here with 2 hearing aids or a hearing aid and a cochlear implant, the individual results. We've also looked at cueing the localization, so hey, I'm over here, and the person can look and then measure speech perception. We've measured distance perception with different loudspeakers in different positions on the front or off to the side. We've also looked at movement, so we simulate movement, and the individual has to suggest is sound coming from the right or the left. Okay, so now we're going to have a test. I want you to say, which ear should get the cochlear implant? 35% correct in the left ear, right ear is 10% correct. The selection criteria for getting a cochlear implant is 40% correct. So this is a test for you. Who says they should get the implant in the left ear only? Raise your hand. Who thinks they should get the implant in the right ear? Raise your hand. Who says 2 cochlear implants? You're all wrong. You need to test.
Doctor, your time is up.
You need to test both ears. So if you test both ears and the binaural performance is 35%, well, then you could do either one. But what happens when you test both ears and the performance is 60% correct? So you need to measure spatial hearing. The guidelines should be based on whether there is a binaural advantage. You first have to optimize the device and optimize binaural performance, and then test for the binaural advantage. We've also developed some training protocols which are being evaluated in China right now We started off with 8, then two loudspeakers. And I'll finish by referencing our Meaning of Life questionnaire that we developed and is being used now and translated. This is the 196 cochlear implant patients and over 100 tinnitus patients. This first item in the Meaning of Life question has to do with hearing. So both of these people groups have trouble hearing. This question right here is about sleep. So the tinnitus patients have more difficulty with sleep. The factor analysis shows, and this is just preliminary work, that the 4 factors have to do with friendship and positive outlook, physical health, hearing and mental health, and general satisfaction. So we need to do a better job emphasizing how important hearing is. It's not about hearing, it's about interacting with people and socializing, friendships, and general satisfaction. That's closer to the importance of hearing. So spatial hearing is important. It's very important to have a simple protocol so we can all measure benefit of both ears working together. And we recommend the Iowa Spatial Hearing Questionnaire to document pre- and post-implant performance. And it's already been translated in several different languages. Thank you.